Every painful relationship has a moment you don't want to admit. The moment you realize the people closest to you are the ones draining your strength the most. Maybe it's family. Maybe it's a friend you've known for years. But something shifted. Their words cut deeper. Their presence feels heavier. And your peace disappears the moment they walk into the room. Here's the truth most people avoid. You don't have to tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or emotional exhaustion just because there's history, blood, or shared memories. Stoic philosophy teaches that your first duty is to protect your mind, your time, and your inner peace, even if that means walking away from those who feel entitled to hurt you. Today, we're going to look at 8 undeniable signs that it's time to cut ties or create distance, even with people you once cared about. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect and clarity. 1. They consistently belittle you. There is a quiet kind of harm that doesn't leave bruises, but leaves you doubting your worth. It happens in the small comments, the subtle tones, the little jokes that somehow always cut deeper than they should. When someone repeatedly minimizes your achievements, mocks your efforts, or treats your goals as childish fantasies, you aren't dealing with love. You're dealing with someone who is slowly eroding your sense of self. Belittling is rarely loud. It's not always shouting or direct insults. More often, it shows up in disguised forms. Sarcasm that stings, advice that talks down to you, comparisons meant to make you feel small. You say something you're excited about, and they respond with a raised eyebrow. You share a plan, and they laugh before you finish the sentence. They call it honesty, humor, or keeping you grounded. But notice this. Their honesty never uplifts. Their humor never protects, and their grounding never helps you grow. Stoic philosophy teaches that insults say more about the speaker than the target. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the behavior of others is their burden, not yours, and that a person who constantly tries to shrink others is often trying to hide their own inadequacy. Belittling is projection in disguise. It is insecurity reaching for control. It is envy wearing the mask of tough love. The real danger is not the insult itself. It's the normalization of it. You start adjusting your voice, your dreams, your personality just to avoid being mocked. You start choosing silence over excitement because you don't want to feel foolish. You begin living below your potential simply to keep the peace with someone who has no desire to see you rise. A healthy person celebrates your growth. A grounded friend supports your ambition. Someone who truly values you doesn't need to shrink you to feel tall. When a person belittles you consistently, it's a clear indication of misaligned values and broken respect. The Stoic response is not to argue, defend, or plead for understanding. It is to observe the pattern, recognize the disrespect, and withdraw your emotional access. You cannot force someone to treat you better, but you can choose not to remain in places where your worth is repeatedly denied. If someone makes you feel smaller every time you share your truth, your wins, or your dreams, it's not a relationship. It's a slow demolition of your confidence. And the most self-respecting step you can take is to walk away from anyone who benefits from your pain. Respect is not negotiable. 2. They never take responsibility for anything. One of the clearest signs that a relationship has become unhealthy is when the other person refuses to take responsibility for their actions. You know this type. Every mistake is someone else's fault. Every conflict is because you overreacted. Every consequence is the result of bad luck, bad timing, or bad people. Never them. When a person constantly avoids accountability, you're not dealing with immaturity. You're dealing with someone who will drain your emotional energy one excuse at a time. People who never take responsibility are masters of rewriting the story. They'll twist conversations, deny things they clearly said, shift blame onto you, or use selective memory to paint themselves as the victim. Confront them about something they did, and they'll suddenly act confused or hurt. Hold them accountable, and they'll accuse you of being dramatic, unfair, or too sensitive. It's a cycle. Blame, deflect, guilt trip, repeat. This behavior is not random. It's calculated self-protection. Admitting fault requires humility, emotional maturity, and self-awareness. Those who lack these qualities would rather distort reality than confront their flaws. Stoic philosophy teaches that an honest person examines their judgments and behaviors before criticizing others. Epictetus wrote that a wise mind focuses more on correcting itself than accusing the world. But someone who refuses responsibility does the opposite. They protect their ego at the cost of your sanity. Over time, this dynamic conditions you to carry emotional weight that isn't yours. You begin apologizing just to end the conflict. You start questioning your memory, your intentions, even your character. You feel like you're constantly fixing problems you didn't create, as if keeping the peace is solely your job. It's exhausting, and worse, it makes you believe you're the unstable one. But here's the truth. Accountability is a sign of respect. When someone refuses to own their actions, they are telling you that your feelings, your experiences, and your boundaries don't matter. They are showing you that they prioritize their comfort over your well-being. And if they don't carry their part of the relationship, you end up carrying it for both of you until you collapse. The Stoic response is clarity, not conflict. You don't argue with someone who has no intention of acknowledging truth. You observe their pattern and step back. You set boundaries that protect your mental space. You stop accepting blame that doesn't belong to you. A relationship without accountability is not a partnership. It's a burden. And choosing distance from someone who always makes you the problem is not cruelty. It's self-respect. Blame is their weapon. Clarity is your shield. 3. They only come to you when they need something. There is a certain type of relationship that feels warm only when the other person wants something from you. Your time, your attention, your emotional labor, your money, or your support. When they're in trouble, confused, lonely, or bored, suddenly you matter. Suddenly the messages come fast, the calls are more frequent, the tone is sweeter, but the moment their crisis passes, they vanish. Their warmth disappears, their interest fades, and you're left wondering why you always feel useful, but never valued. This is not connection. It is convenience, and convenience is not friendship. People who use you often disguise their intentions well. They may frame it as needing advice, just wanting to talk, or reaching out because you're the only one who understands. But pay attention to the pattern. Do they ever check on you without needing something? Do they celebrate your wins, or do they only reach out when they want emotional relief from their own problems? Do they add anything to your life, or do they simply take? Stoic philosophy teaches that a healthy relationship is based on mutual contribution, not one-sided extraction. Seneca wrote that true friendship is built on virtue, not utility. Someone who only shows up when it benefits them is not a friend. They are a taker disguised as one. Their presence in your life is conditional, transactional, and ultimately draining. The hidden danger in these relationships is how subtly they condition you to become their rescuer. You start answering every call because you feel guilty. You drop everything to help them, even when you're exhausted. You emotionally invest in their chaos, while they invest nothing in your stability. And when you finally reach a moment of need, they are nowhere to be found. Or worse, they tell you they're busy, overwhelmed, or can't deal with this right now. This is the imbalance that slowly erodes your self-worth. You start believing your role in people's lives is to fix, support, rescue, and sacrifice. You forget that you too deserve reciprocity. You too deserve someone who cares about your well-being, even when they don't need anything. The Stoic approach is simple. Observe actions, not words. Someone who values you shows up consistently, not strategically. Set boundaries with those who take more than they give. Limit your availability to those who only appear when it's convenient for them. And remind yourself that your time, your energy, and your peace are limited resources, not public property. If someone only knocks on your door when they need something, they're not choosing you. They're choosing the benefits of you, and that is not a relationship you must keep. Your energy is a resource. Protect it. 4. They treat your boundaries like a joke. There is no clearer sign of disrespect than someone consistently ignoring or mocking the limits you set to protect your peace. A boundary is not a request. It is not a suggestion. It is a line that defines what is acceptable for you. A line drawn from self-respect. But for some people, your boundaries are nothing more than obstacles they believe they can push, bend, or laugh their way around. These individuals often respond to your limits with sarcasm. Relax, it's not that serious. You're being dramatic. I was just joking. Notice the pattern. Instead of acknowledging your discomfort, they invalidate it. Instead of adjusting their behavior, they try to make you feel guilty for wanting dignity. They turn your boundaries into a punchline because respecting them would require self-awareness and emotional maturity, qualities they may not possess or care to develop. Stoic philosophy teaches that we cannot control how others behave, but we can control what we allow. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that dignity is something you protect through your actions, not your words. A boundary only works when it is enforced, not when it is endlessly explained. When someone repeatedly dismisses your limits, they are not confused, they are testing you. And every time you let it slide, you teach them that the test is worth trying again. A dangerous dynamic begins to form. You become the one constantly adjusting. You soften your tone to avoid conflict. You tolerate behavior that drains you. You start believing that asking for basic respect makes you demanding or difficult. Before you know it, the relationship becomes shaped entirely around their comfort, not your well-being. Healthy people don't do this. Healthy people listen when you say, "This hurts me, this stresses me," or "This is not okay." They don't question your boundary. They honor it because they value the relationship more than the convenience of crossing your line. When someone treats your boundaries like a joke, what they're really saying is, "My preferences matter more than your peace." And no relationship can thrive with that imbalance. The Stoic response is firm, calm, and action-centered. You set the boundary once, clearly, you observe their behavior. And if they continue to disrespect it, you withdraw access, your time, your attention, your emotional presence. You do not argue, you do not negotiate endlessly. You simply protect yourself. Because the truth is simple. If someone ignores your boundaries, they are not misunderstanding you. They are revealing themselves. When they refuse to honor your limits, they lose the privilege of your presence. 5. They feel envious when you succeed. One of the most painful realizations in life is discovering that someone close to you doesn't actually want to see you win. They may smile when you share good news, but you can feel the shift, the stiffness in their voice, the forced enthusiasm, the subtle change in energy. Instead of genuine excitement, there's an undercurrent of discomfort. Envy is quiet, but it is never invisible. You'll notice it in how they respond to your progress. When something good happens to you, they downplay it or immediately compare it to someone else. When you talk about a new opportunity, they find reasons to doubt it. When you accomplish something meaningful, they shift the focus back to themselves or make a comment that takes the shine off your moment. They never say, "I'm proud of you," without attaching a reminder of their own struggles, sacrifices, or disappointments. It's a subtle way of making your achievement feel like an inconvenience. The Stoics understood human nature deeply. Envy, they taught, does not arise from someone else's success. It arises from another person's unaddressed insecurity. Marcus Aurelius wrote that people are drawn to envy by their own suffering. meaning that envy is never about you. It's about the emptiness they refuse to confront within themselves. Your growth exposes what they have avoided. Your confidence highlights their self-doubt. Your progress threatens the stability of the stories they tell themselves. But envy becomes dangerous when it turns into subtle sabotage. You may notice they discourage your ambitions, plant seeds of doubt, minimize your accomplishments, or even gossip behind your back. They may pretend to support you publicly, but resent you privately. And if the person is family or a long-time friend, the betrayal feels heavier because the bond was supposed to be safe. You cannot build a peaceful life while surrounded by people who secretly hope you stay small. When those around you are threatened by your growth, you will shrink yourself without realizing it. You will share less, dream less, and dim your own light just to avoid their discomfort. But your life is not meant to be limited by someone else's insecurity. The Stoic response is not to resent them, argue with them, or try to prove your worth. It is to quietly protect your energy. You reduce how much you share. You keep your goals guarded. You surround yourself with people who celebrate your wins sincerely, not conditionally. A true friend does not compete with you. They rise beside you. When someone's support disappears the moment you rise, believe what their silence reveals. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your success. 6. You always feel like you're walking on eggshells. A relationship becomes emotionally dangerous the moment you realize you are no longer being yourself. When every word must be calculated, every reaction measured, every truth softened, and every emotion suppressed just to keep the peace, you're not in a relationship. You're in a psychological minefield. Walking on eggshells is not a sign of sensitivity, it's a sign of fear. And fear has no place in the presence of someone who genuinely cares for you. You know this pattern. Before you speak, you rehearse your sentences in your head. Before you disagree, you analyze how they might react. Before expressing anything real, you ask yourself, will this upset them? Will they twist this? Will they punish me for being honest? Your nervous system becomes hypervigilant, constantly scanning for mood shifts, tone changes, or emotional traps. This isn't connection, it's survival. People who create this kind of environment often do so through subtle emotional manipulation. Guilt trips, unpredictable reactions, passive-aggressive comments, sudden silence, or using your vulnerabilities as ammunition. Their inconsistencies keep you off balance. Their moods dictate the temperature of the relationship, and instead of addressing their own emotional instability, they make you responsible for managing it. You become the caretaker of their chaos. Stoic philosophy warns against giving others this level of power. Epictetus taught that the greatest slavery is emotional dependence on another person's moods, judgments, or approval. When you are constantly adjusting yourself to avoid upsetting someone, you lose your autonomy. You lose your voice. Over time, you lose your identity. You become a version of yourself shaped by fear instead of virtue. Healthy relationships don't require you to shrink. They don't punish honesty, silence your opinions, or make you feel unsafe for expressing yourself. In a healthy dynamic, disagreement is not a threat. It's a conversation. Emotions are not weapons, they're signals. Honesty is not dangerous, it's welcomed. When someone makes you feel like you must tiptoe around them, it means they benefit from your silence. They benefit from your hesitation. They benefit from the emotional control they exert without ever openly admitting it. The Stoic response is clarity and courage. You begin to observe without reacting. You separate their emotions from your responsibility. You speak firmly, calmly, and truthfully. And most importantly, you allow distance to grow where fear has taken root. Because no peace is worth the cost of losing yourself. If you cannot relax around someone you love, that is not love. It is emotional captivity. Peace is not found where you must constantly shrink to be safe. 7. They do not respect your time, effort, or priorities. One of the most subtle yet devastating forms of disrespect is when someone repeatedly treats your time, your commitments, and your responsibilities as if they are insignificant. They show up late without apology. They cancel plans at the last minute. They expect you to rearrange your schedule for their convenience. They interrupt you while you're working, diminish the things you care about, and make you feel guilty for not being available on demand. This is not forgetfulness, it is not personality, it is a pattern rooted in entitlement. People who truly value you understand that time is life. And when they disregard your time, they're disregarding your life. They assume your world revolves around theirs. They expect your flexibility, but offer none in return. And when you express frustration, they accuse you of overthinking instead of acknowledging the impact of their behavior. Stoic philosophy teaches that time is our most precious possession. Seneca wrote that people guard their money fiercely, but waste their time carelessly, even though time is the one thing we can never earn back. Someone who consistently intrudes on your time, dismisses your effort, or treats your priorities as optional is showing you exactly how little they respect you. The danger of this dynamic is how quietly it conditions you to devalue yourself. You start adjusting your schedule to avoid conflict. You drop your plans because you feel obligated. You begin to prioritize their needs over your own ambitions. You apologize for being busy, for having goals, for having a life outside of them. You shrink your world to fit theirs. Meanwhile, they continue living freely, unaffected, unbothered, and unaware of the sacrifices you keep making. Healthy people don't do this. Healthy people honor your commitments, appreciate your effort, and recognize the weight of your responsibilities. They respect your work, your routines, your goals, and your time boundaries. They don't expect instant replies, emotional labor on demand, or last-minute changes that cost you peace. The Stoic response is to reclaim control of your time with calm firmness. You stop over-explaining. You stop rearranging your schedule. You stop apologizing for having boundaries. You begin saying simple phrases like, "I'm not available," "That doesn't work for me," or "I already have plans." Not with anger, with clarity. When someone respects you, they adjust. When they don't, they push back. And that reaction tells you everything you need to know about whether this relationship deserves a place in your life. If your time is always negotiable to them, but theirs is sacred, you're not being treated as an equal. You're being treated as a convenience. Your time is sacred. Protect it from those who waste it. 8. You feel more peaceful when you distance yourself from them. Sometimes the clearest sign that a relationship has run its course is not something they say or do. It's how your body reacts when you pull away. Pay attention to the quiet truth inside you. If your mind feels calmer, your chest feels lighter, and your days feel clearer when you're not around someone, that is not coincidence. That is inner wisdom speaking. Peace is data. Relief is evidence. Think about the last time you spent time with this person. Did you leave feeling tense, drained, or unsettled? Did you replay the conversation in your head, wondering if you said anything wrong? Did you feel the need to recover your energy afterward? Those reactions aren't dramatic. They are indicators of emotional misalignment. Healthy relationships don't leave you feeling depleted. Real connection doesn't give you anxiety. Love doesn't feel like obligation, confusion, or exhaustion. What often happens is subtle. You start shrinking your personality around them, measuring your words, limiting your joy, or withholding your dreams. You may not even realize you're doing it. You just feel safer at a distance. That is your nervous system telling you the truth long before your mind is ready to admit it. Stoic philosophy teaches that the soul recognizes what aligns with virtue and what erodes it. Marcus Aurelius wrote that what is good for your nature brings harmony. What is not brings disturbance. Peace, then, becomes the ultimate compass. When someone's presence creates chaos, but their absence creates clarity. The relationship is speaking for itself. People who are right for your life add stability, inspiration, and calm. They don't bring constant tension, unpredictability, or self-doubt. They don't force you into emotional recovery mode after every interaction. The imbalance you feel is a signal, not a flaw in you. The most dangerous thing you can do is ignore this signal. Many people stay in draining relationships out of guilt, habit, or loyalty to history. But loyalty to your past should never cost you your future. You do not owe anyone access to your mind or your energy if their presence harms your inner world. Distance is not punishment. It's protection. Space is not cruelty. It's clarity. The Stoic response is to trust the evidence of your own peace. You honor your emotional reality without apology. You create distance without drama. You choose environments, relationships, and people who help you stay aligned with your highest self. And you allow what is harmful to fade without chasing closure or explanation. If distance brings you back to yourself, that relationship was costing you too much. Peace is the proof. Always trust it. Here's what all of this comes down to. Relationships are supposed to strengthen you, not drain you. They are meant to bring clarity, not confusion. Growth, not guilt. Peace, not emotional chaos. When the people closest to you repeatedly cross your boundaries, minimize your feelings, take without giving, or make you shrink to stay connected, that is not love. That is erosion. And erosion, if ignored long enough, destroys everything from the inside out. Stoic philosophy reminds us that protecting your inner world is not selfish. It is responsible. Marcus Aurelius wrote that your mind is your kingdom, and you must guard it as you would guard something sacred. Walking away from people who damage your peace isn't cruelty. It's maturity. It's the decision to stop negotiating your worth with those who never intended to value it in the first place. You now have 8 unmistakable signs to listen to. 8 moments of truth that reveal when a relationship has crossed the line from meaningful to harmful. And if one or more of these signs resonated with you, don't ignore that instinct. Your peace is speaking to you. As you move forward, choose clarity over guilt, strength over attachment, and inner peace over outdated loyalty. And remember, distance doesn't break real relationships. It only exposes the ones that were never real to begin with. If this message spoke